Welcome back. The Supreme Court could decide as soon as next month whether President Trump can restrict birthright citizenship. But my next guest isn't taking any chances. He's ready with a plan to end birthright citizenship through a constitutional amendment. He is Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, and he joins me now. Senator, thanks for being with us here today. 2/3 of the House, two-thirds of the Senate, 3/4 of the states is another path to ratify an amendment. And we barely get bills passed, Senator.
Yeah, I think going through the states is our best chance. You know, there's about 35 Republican states where this is pretty popular. And I do think as it's explained to people and people understand that people who are breaking the law and their kids get to vote, I think most people, if they hear that, are like surprised, but also upset that this is happening. We also have so many people abusing our system. I mean, look at the entire Somali population of Minnesota stealing $9 billion. So I think people are upset about this more than they have been in a long time. And I think the 14th Amendment was intended really to make sure slaves, newly freed slaves were voting, all for that, all for legal immigrants who come here and U.S. citizens to vote. Right. But if you break the law, I don't think you should be rewarded with voting.
But does that mean, even though that's your interpretation, mine as well, that the 14th Amendment had its original intentions, you don't expect the Supreme Court to actually see it the same way?
Most people who watch the oral arguments are saying the court's probably going to rule the other way. That's been the opinion of most legal scholars over time, but we've never had a definitive ruling. I think we probably will get a definitive ruling, and I don't think it's going our way. But either way, for my period in the Senate, I've been for statutory change the law, but I've also been for constitutional change. And I think we're leaning towards the best answer, or maybe the only possible answer after the Supreme Court rules, is we're going to have to amend the Constitution.
All right, 35 states. You need 38 ultimately to ratify it. That's a big lift, but.
Yeah, you need 38 in order to ratify it. But I think it's going to happen. One thing is for sure is that America is serious about the citizenship in this country right now. Who deserves to be a citizen and who does not, right? And one thing's for sure, the voting part, when you look at the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and you look at the Voter Rights Act of 1965 on how they were generally, and for the main part, through the fights of Black Americans, right? The communication that this bill was supposed to make in distinguishment for white America and Black America to get along in this country. And you implement a third stream with regards to the Immigration Act of 1965 and how it begins to dilute the two bills I had first stated, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. When you begin to allow all this immigration to come into the country and you don't allow these people to assimilate for generations, like you did Black America, to ensure that they would have an understanding of what it is and have pride for the country, like a man like Donald Trump, for instance, right now, right? Probably people don't want me to mention that, but like a person like myself, for instance. So this bill aligns with a lot of the executive order that Donald Trump had put with regards to birthright citizenship. One of the key things to note, like I said, is these people ability to vote within the system. This is why you see that the Democratic Party has such of a vast cultural, distinction as opposed to the Republican Party. Look at the people on the side of the Democratic Party who are being representatives, who most certainly constituency are people who have been benefited most from the Immigration Act of 1965. People like the Cubans who sought asylum out of Cuba, Miss Maria Sanchez, the Hispanic population. When you think of Mayor Antonio Virgos, Mr. Becerra, who is running for governor right now, Bonta, who is the Attorney General right now. All these people who have benefited primarily from immigration, the Immigration Act of 1965, as the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 has been diluted. And it all streams from the thought and the culture that America had with regards to white supremacy, right? And it's the reason why these bills have been diluted. When these bills were meant for Black Americans and white Americans to have a better communication with each other, but the culture of white supremacy stung this country, so much so, I hate hearing myself, stung this country so much so that Black people's rights begin to get diluted. And now look what we have. We have a person like Rand Paul, like Donald Trump, who wants to put America first, who wants to put American citizens first, who got voted in like they should have, right? And I'm just going with regards to the system of what makes America great in terms of us being a democracy, having independence and in pursuit of happiness, which a lot of people who come from other countries just don't understand as they come here to seek refuge. So this bill is synonymous with that, right? Because like he said, how should people be able to vote in our system? The most concerning thing is the people that are allowed to vote in our system. And when you, like I said, when you look at the Democratic Party, look at the people from LGBTQ plus to Cuban Americans to Asian Americans to Hispanic Americans to Somali Americans, all this diversity, while American was supposed to be this big melting pot. No, it's not this big melting pot, which allows anybody to come into this nation and just be allowed to be a part of a system that people have fought for until you have shown that allegiance to the country. So we have the Democratic Party being alleged to taking in foreign money through PACs like Act Blue, having a body of representatives to show a face to get people to vote for them that look like them. Instead of being more concerned with regards to policy and how that those policies are going to have an impact on the United States of America, we have things like sanctuary cities. And I think Bonta or Alexander Becerra assisted Governor Jerry Brown with bringing that about with the Truth Act and the Trust Act back in 2017. Here we are, as I think about Antonio Vargas and how I think is when you begin to really see Los Angeles just going downhill with bad policy. And now here we go. We have to get to the truth about what all this stuff is really about. And it's not to say that, hey, Black America should point the finger at white America. It's not to say that white America should continue on with, its ideas with regards to white supremacy and thinking that this is a country that is fundamentally created by their race. This is a shared nation, and the melting pot is predominantly Black Americans and white Americans. The Constitution speaks for itself. And here we are. We have to ask this question of where do we want to go? What do we want this nation to stand on, and what is it founded upon? Anyway, I think the bill is going to pass just based on the fact that the Democratic Party, just because of their racial gerrymandering under the Voting Rights Act of 1965, has been ruled upon to where they can't do that no more. And the reason why you see so many urban communities, which predominantly meant black American community, is being flooded with a whole lot of other people. And the reason why you see a place like California now, where the population of Hispanic and Asians are 55%, and California is as well a supermajority, and as well full of illegal immigrants. And now we got to see the change begins to happen. Someone left in the comments that it is a slow turn. Well, this turn cannot come fast enough. Donald Trump, come hit LA. Seriously, black people are the most devastated people when it comes to immigration, whether legal or illegal. The H-1B visas has been shown to be a fraud. In addition to that, so when you look at the tech industry, how that is being affected. I want people to just go out into their communities and look at your 7-Elevens and look at people who was taking over these certain industries. Look at the the beauty supplies and nail shops. Look at the mom and pop donut stores. Look at primarily the restaurants. Look at the hospitality industry. What else can you look at? What else can you look at? All these sectors are being predominantly dominated by specific demographics, if you look, right? And not all together, but distinctly, like a underground pipeline for these jobs to be inspired to target just them. Like, black people, we farmed. Black Americans farmed. Black Americans was in hospitality. White Americans was too, busboys. Black Americans like to do nails. And Black Americans like to do hair. You know what I'm saying? So does white Americans. And it's not to say anything bad, but it is to say from an economic standpoint, look who is controlling the industry and is pretty much not allowing the United States citizen to get that on-the-job training like they used to. Look at the people doing line services, who is cutting our lines. You see, these are easy hustle jobs that in times of need, United States citizens were able to just jump into if they just had a little organization and a little funds to get into so that they can buy a lawnmower, for instance, and start a business. But our business loans were being given to immigrants. American power. Where is the American power in that if we give all our stuff away? Even to where California is dependent on foreign oil from Iran because policies like the Democratic Party has implemented got an 85-cent tax on each gallon. That's not considering the carb, right? And they have to switch oils with regards to the wintertime and the summertime. They completely almost lost all the refineries that's in this state. We only have 3 refineries. Housing is going up. There's supposed to be a housing shortage. Well, there's going to be a housing shortage if you allow so much immigration to come into this state, right? So the demand is that much more. So many ways of how we have become a laughingstock because Black American rights have been diluted. And now we are not just now recognizing this. And Donald Trump is the one who points it out as he has a passion for this country to be ultimately what it was always meant to be. And that is a melting pot, a shared diversity of white and Black Americans. And it's not to say other Americans don't have ways of contributing to, because we do have Hispanic Americans, we have Asian Americans. All these people have run from their countries to seek refuge to what both black and white Americans have built. If you believe it, I believe it. And I most certainly do think that the history of America as it is now is reflecting full circle to acknowledge that point within itself. Tiny Cross-H.U.G on the Trumped Up Live Show. Always remember, man, to like, share, subscribe to the channel. How do I want to do this? It's a good day to be a soldier.
We are the essence of God's image. We are the representation of God's love for his creation.